Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, after recording 1,500 interviews with tech leaders, I always try and keep a close eye on how guests are doing and what they go on to achieve. And I recently learned in January that HCL Technologies saw their revenue hit the $10 billion mark, which just completely blew my mind. And regular listeners will know that I've featured the company several times on this podcast, and we've talked about everything from the digital transformation of Manchester United, cybersecurity fusion centres, and speaking to them on the show floor at the Adobe Summit in Las Vegas. Those were the days, man. Remember that? Tech conferences? Seems like another world away. But I decided to invite them back onto the podcast for a good old-fashioned catch-up and talk about cloud and AI adoption, along with the great news of reaching $10 billion in revenue. And on the subject of specialist partnerships, they're often only considered necessary when implementing niche technologies. But today's guest from HCL Technologies, who likes to be referred to as KK, he believes that organisations will only see real-world benefits from AI and cloud if they actually work together. So he's going to talk us through what forms this can take, from go-to-market alliances to individual partnerships that just meet the requirement of specific organisations and their unique use cases. But enough from me. Let's get him onto the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, hello everyone. This is Kalyan Kumar. You can address me as KK. I've been with HCL for 20 years, the global CTO, running product and tech strategy and driving a lot of our ecosystem innovation and partnerships. I also look after all our strategic partner ecosystem, startup and industry ecosystems.
Excellent. And over the years on this podcast, I have been fortunate to speak with a variety of number of people across HCL. And that was, I think, I remember talking at the Adobe Summit, the cybersecurity fusion center that was being created, and also the work that HCL was doing with the digital transformation of Man United. But I know that you guys do so much work in so many different areas. So for people listening and hearing about HCL for the very first time, could you possibly tell me a little bit more about that wide variety of problems that you solve for your customers with technology?
So HCL is a $10 billion global technology and services company. We've been around for 42 plus years, and we started as a garage startup way back in India. And then we now have a global presence across 50 plus countries and got about close to 160,000 plus employees, whom we call them as ideapreneurs. We operate in three core segments. The first is what we call as IT and business services. That's our largest segment, where we are responsible for helping customers build a resilient digital enterprise by leveraging infrastructure modernization, application modernization, process transformation, changing the way they operate, leveraging digital, IoT, cybersecurity, and cloud and AI at the core, and working with a large ecosystem of partners. Our second segment is engineering and R&D services. It's one of the world's largest engineering services provider and an OEM integrator across various disciplines, not just software engineering, but we do mechanical, VLSI, embedded systems, PLM, and cutting across both product engineering, platform engineering, and operations technology, and across various verticals from consumer electronics to server storage, telecommunications, medical devices, aero, automotive. So we do some very cool engineering stuff, sizable business. And the third business, which is really fast and new and growing over the last 4 years as part of our Mode 1, 2, 3 strategy, is our products and platform, or what we call the Mode 3 overall, which includes HCL as a software company. We are one of the top 15 software companies in the world with a very sizable revenue stream, and we've got products across various streams in core products around automation, DevOps, security, collaboration, enterprise applications within HCL software. We've got a dedicated product organization called DryEyes.ai, helping create new AI ops and service orchestration products to help automation. And then we have Actium and our telecommunications and Industry 4.0 focused software product group called ERX. So that's HCL in sum. We sometimes are, I would say, a best kept secret in the industry. But yeah, we continue to be relevant. This year we got rated as the Forbes, one of the best employers in the world award. And we continue to innovate and thrive around our philosophy of employee first and relationship beyond the contract and value centricity.
Fantastic. And it has been an incredibly challenging 12 months, and the world is very different from what it was the last time I spoke with someone from HCL. So I'm curious, what has been COVID-19's role in driving the boom in demand for artificial intelligence and the cloud? Because I would imagine that you've seen a lot of activity in this area.
I roll back to January 26th, just to be precise, on 2020, and we were in Davos, and I was listening to Yuval Noah Harari in a session, and he said 21 things to worry about or look for in the 21st century, and he said pandemic, right? And then in 4 weeks, the whole world came to a big shock, and I think in 8 weeks, pretty much everything came to a halt, and people realized, hey, this is completely a different scenario, something unprecedented, and it's really impacted. I think the first time we've seen, I would say, a domino effect across society, business, and technology, both in positive and negative ways. And I think that's what the pandemic really shook up. And for listeners who happen to be in one of the cricket following nations, it's like you losing a toss in Headingley on day one in an overcast sky. It's just like you didn't know what to do. You have to just bat out sessions. So it's a very similar situation where you have to thrive, you have to survive, and then find a way to revive and thrive. So and that's where I think we started to see that technology could really enable, which is especially the two key foundation building blocks, which is cloud and AI. I think, and they feed off each other. They've got a very unique relationship, hyperscale compute and processing capabilities to and store a lot of data, which is what AI feeds on, and vice versa. And we started to see, like today we're having this podcast conversation over Zoom, and there's Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and WebEx. There's so many different technologies. You see the adoption of cloud at scale, and there's significant, this whole remote working, work from home, remote enablement. So many businesses have just evolved in leveraging the power of cloud and AI. And I think there has been a completely human side to this whole aspect. This technology is also connected hospitals and GPs and patients and so many different parts of this thing, even yoga and Pilates classes running on Zoom and Google Meet or Teams. It's interesting, I think, but I think people have realized the importance of technology, which can help them in their lives. But I think we're still evolving through the challenging years, and I hope in the next year or so, we should be completely out of this. But I think we've built a resilience model by leveraging technology to handle such situations coming, which we might face in the future.
Absolutely. And someone that's gone from seeing that session at Davos to where we are now and seeing so many changes occur, I'm curious, have you seen cross-organizational collaboration increasing innovation in AI and the cloud over the last 12 months?
Obviously, yes. And I think the way I see this is very interesting is if you start to look at one of the most important things is organizations now doing business continuity and disaster recovery planning for the workplace. See, before we were all thinking about how do I protect the data center, the information systems, and the applications. But never ever people thought of a situation that now the work location will change, how people work will change. So fluid workplace becomes a very, very fundamental approach. So it's really opened up a perspective in the last, I would say 14 months, people have just realized the need to reconfigure. And that's where I think the power of three things, I would say connectivity, ubiquitous connectivity, high-speed access cloud, along with the capabilities which you get on top of cloud, which is infrastructure, workplace, cloud applications, SaaS delivered capability, collaboration, content, commerce, and also a lot of AI, which has been weaved into this behind, correct? And be able to really leverage that. And that's led to three things. In the organization, the importance of technology at the board level has become very, very relevant. They've realized what it can do. Second is the coming together of administration, facilities, IT, HR, business operations together and working together as one unit and tapping into the power of the ecosystem, correct? People now realizing, I don't want to build everything on my own, correct? I need to find a way to be able to leverage what's available, create only delta differentials and consume whatever is available out of the block. And that really also enabled the adoption of cloud and AI in a large scale.
So do you think that AI and cloud adoption require organisational restructuring? Because I would imagine there's a lot of businesses still finding their way. They don't want to lose momentum, but equally, do they need that to restructure to continue to move forward effectively and efficiently?
So I won't say that you need to reorganize because of cloud and AI, but what cloud and AI is helping you do to think your strategy a bit differently. So the way I would really see is there are two kinds of, let's say, business models, correct? There's companies which have a long heritage, classic, or sometimes people call it legacy, or I use the word classic. Yeah. They've been there for a long period of time. They have their own set processes, systems, and those things in place. So there is a clear need that when you look at cloud is not technology. See, cloud is a holistic way, or it's a state of mind. It's the way you start to think. How do you adopt? See, digital is about rewiring businesses. Digital workplace is about rewiring employees to connect in a different way. But if you bring it cloud becomes the all-encompassing capability for an enterprise to break the traditional way of thinking, right? Oh, infrastructure, platforms, applications, data, process. Cloud really starts to bring a lot of them together in a what I call an XaaS model or an as a service model. It really needs three different fundamental elements. The first is it needs a holistic strategy to look at what can I do while using the power of cloud, and obviously AI, and which means that data feeds into AI. The second is how do I really create a more smart, pragmatic journey to rapidly adopt cloud? And it's also not just a destination conversation, but also an architecture conversation. You need to think of both cloud as an architecture and cloud as a destination. The destination could be I can go to Microsoft, Google, AWS, IBM Cloud, or I can go and consume SaaS. We need to really start to think in terms of how do we look at the architectural patterns and the destination. Third thing is about the whole economics around cloud. Right? How do you start to look at cloud economics? When you put these things together, you need to relook at that the culture of adopting DevOps, SRE, relooking at operations, relooking at how do I enable a more catalog-centric consumption model, a SaaS model. That will drive the org change. You don't need to reorg just because you're doing cloud, but it's about how you're thinking about this to do that. And actually, we're seeing that customers realizing, hey, I can do things in a far better way, and everyone can consume and use technology in a more efficient way.
Absolutely. And I do think there's a few myths around AI as well at the moment, and a lot of negative narratives, I think, because for especially around the removal of jobs in the workplace, because I think for a long, long time, people have got used to doing repetitive, mundane tasks rather than value-add tasks in businesses. And I think more and more businesses are starting to realise that I think it's not a case of people versus machines, but it's about complementing each other, enjoying the best of worlds rather than competing against each other. And for me, that means that humans are going to need more skills such as empathy, creativity, management, strategy, and people skills, etc. But I'm curious, what skills do you think are needed for this workforce of the future?
So I think the way we look at how we need to educate our students in 21st century learning and skills, and what skills do they need? So they need literacy skill, numeracy skills. They need ICT skills, they need math skills, correct? They need programming skills. Similar way, when you look at your current workforce, these workforces go into transformation, which means they need to develop newer skills and capabilities. I think the whole notion that AI is going to take away jobs is not the right mindset, because the way I look at AI is going to create new opportunities. Because today, if you really look at, there is so much of open demand in this tech combined enabled go-to-market solutions, and you need a lot of system programmers, you need a lot of application developers, you need a lot of product managers, you need a lot of digital marketing skills. There is a big dearth. There is enough jobs available. The issue is that we're not able to find people. On the other hand, people are saying technology is taking jobs away. It's where I think the large amount of reskilling which needs to happen, the large amount of retraining which needs to happen. So every business becomes a technology business. So you need a lot of new skills. So the challenge is, how do I make human and machines work together? That's what I call the human-machine partnership, which is leveraging the power of AI. And the second is, how do you enable new skills like programming, digital media, marketing, social, integrating those pieces together, and then putting all of them into a total context. So a lot of demand, a lot of skills. We need to retool and reskill existing workforce, but also work with the university, the schools, the education system, which is what we've been doing in certain countries where you have large scale delivery, to train people for the newer skills and get them in, because there's huge demand which is in there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And this is an argument that's been going on for years now. If we go back 20 years ago, there weren't things like data analysts, social media managers, web designers, podcasts such as myself, SEO, virtual assistants. It's yes, old jobs will disappear as they're no longer needed, but there is this whole new range of new roles that are essential to drive businesses forward. So, but like you said there, the key is in retraining people and ensuring that we don't leave people behind. And what do you think that the secret is into investing into retraining people, and how do we get to that place?
You know, our CEO makes this, he always gives a quote from Alvin Toffler. He always used to say that, and I'm a big believer in that the illiterate of the 21st century is not who can not read and write, but someone who has to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So you have to basically be someone who is willing to learn on a lifelong learning, unlearn old things, and relearn new things. So I think the first thing it starts at, it's a two-way street. It's the individual who has to say, I am willing to relearn or acquire new skills, and the organization or the community or the school, the university, wherever the person is in, is able to provide them that ability. I think there is enough content available in the market. Right? There's enough content, massive online, open online courses, MOOCs. There's enough learning capability which exists. So training is going to be a two-way street. It's to start with you as an individual and willingness to learn, and then be able to tap into that pieces. The second thing is this whole org structure, which is very pyramid structure, needs to go through a diamond structure or a very orthogonal structured model, where your focus is not about north-south command control, but more east-west or southeast, northeast kind of directional communication and collaboration, how people communicate and collaborate. So one is you enable the skill capability. Second is you bring people together to be able to communicate and collaborate. And that's where the digital workplace becomes extremely important, because you are trying to do what I call B2C and B2B digital, but you have to think about B2E digital too. And we've done some very interesting work. So we've created something called a Digital Foundation Academy. We took some of the OECD, World Economic Forum, Future of Education reports, and we picked a few of those traits. And we said, hey, what are the core foundational skills one needs, correct? And let's figure out what people are missing, correct? How do I make infrastructure administrators understand programming? How do I make application developers understand data? How do I make product managers think more holistic? So that's one. Then there's a lot of character qualities and personality development, like how do you drive better collaboration, better communication, and then also personality traits like what you mentioned in the start, correct? Empathy, ability to have grit, persistence, things like that. So I think the whole purpose of the Digital Foundation Academy is to really create new skill foundation, but it's not just about tech skills, but also a lot of the complementary skills.
Yeah, I completely agree. And a life of continuous learning is what life's all about, I would say as well. And if you're not continuously learning every single day, I know I still am, and as a man of a certain age, I think you're doing life wrong. There's an argument there, but for businesses, what do you think they can expect of AI and the cloud in the future?
So the way I look at this is, when you look at cloud and AI, it's a foundational capability. And if you look at the way I see this world, I see this in three buckets, correct? There is business, tech, and social. So if you look at the business capability, or let's start with tech, which is more easier to this thing. You need to create your workplace of the future, which is more fluid, so that your employees can consume, connect to your applications. You adopt a hybrid cloud or a cloud native approach to get all your applications developed and modernized, and your components, and you secure all of them in a highly secure, because cybersecurity is going to be extremely critical in this whole world around that. Then you start to rewire your business processes, rewire the way you integrate, the way you communicate with your customers, the customer experience, the employee experience, the product experience, the brand experience. How do you relook at commerce, supply chain? How do you leverage IoT and connect up different parts of the business? And how are you really remodernize supply chain and some of those other aspects? And then the last, the most important thing is how are you bringing social sustainability, empathy, thinking about health and safety, health in a very important way. So a lot of those pieces. And cloud and AI have a fundamental role to play in every aspect, correct? I think collaboration, managing meetings, managing calendaring, scheduling, a lot of those headaches can be taken off by AI, correct? Yeah. Automated way. A lot of work which you're doing in rapidly building applications. Can you create new analytics, business insights by leveraging the power of AI, machine learning, deep learning, better visualization, natural language processing, take load of contact center agents, which all of us know that they've been sloshed through the roof in this pandemic times. The call volumes have gone 4x. Could you load a lot of the FAQ general queries to a cognitive virtual assistant or things like that, which can take some load off you across any industry and any use cases? Can I use real-time insights and analytics and leverage the power of AI to start making decisions? So there is umpteen amount of possibility in social media management, and also use AI in cybersecurity, understanding threats, understanding risks, and some of this different aspects. And AI is not new. I think people have this, and I always tell them, correct? Consumer AI has three aspects. There is consumer AI, there is enterprise AI, and there is AI in public sector and defense and a lot of the other parts of the world, correct? Every one of us carry more AI processing on our phones than people would have ever imagined. Okay? The phone knows you, the Android or the iOS knows you more. I think there's a counter side to this. Now people are saying there's too much of privacy or data management which is being there. You carry a lot of AI. It's about how do you want to leverage it for your own stuff. And the same thing is going to happen in enterprise. You're going to get products which will get AI embedded. You don't want to do work on AI. You want to build applications and services which just happens to weave AI inside it. And that's how I really see this whole thing evolving. So it's going to be pervasive and ever existent.
Fantastic. And there are going to be a lot of changes, and a lot of businesses are going to have to continuously learn and adapt to thrive and survive in this digital age too. So what role do you see HCL playing in this future?
Interesting. So if you really go back to the start of the conversation, I said we have three segments of our business, which is IT and business services, helping customers build a resilient digital enterprise. Engineering and R&D services, where we help customers engineer, build product, and manage lifecycle for them to move from traditional engineering to digital engineering. And then building products and platforms and software, which can help across technology and business and operations space. Now we've created this whole motion called the ecosystem, which is where cloud and AI is part of the large cloud native ecosystem, where we're really trying to embed cloud native and this whole ecosystem motion across all these different parts, whether helping customers build and operate a resilient digital enterprise, build new products and capabilities, or ourselves build software and products. We are embedding AI in each one of these motions at different layers, whether it's in operations, development, running systems, enabling this for experience, or creating insights, embedding products, AI into the products. But in the end, make all of them leverage the power of the cloud. So make them deployable in a cloud native way, architecturally, and also in destination, which means you build products which are architected to run on the cloud or cloud native, containerized, new architecture, leveraging all the cloud native development principles, but also make them available in multiple destinations, which is the choice where the customer wants. It could be across all our hyperscaler partners or the tech OEM partners. So, and across both enterprise and service provider and telco. So I think we really see this spanning across, and HCL has a role to play in each one of them, both in enabling services, both on IT, business services and engineering services, and also creating products around this.
I'm conscious we have covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time today. So for anyone listening that would like to find out a little bit of information about anything we've talked about, what's the best way of finding HCL online, and equally the best method of contacting a member of your team if they've got any questions?
Yep, so HCL is present on the web, social, all the channels at www.hcltech.com. We are available at HCL Tech on Twitter, and we have on LinkedIn on the same handle as HCL Technologies. And I'm reachable on my own Twitter handle at @KKLive or on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, I'll add those notes to the blog post just so people can find you nice and easily. You were saying in the podcast there the importance of continuously learning in life, and I for one have learned so much in the 30 minutes that we've spent together today, from how cross-organizational collaboration can increase innovation in AI and the cloud, to the skills needed for the workforce of the future, and most importantly of all is how we can bring everyone along for the ride by re-education and giving people new roles and responsibilities. But more than anything, just a big thank you for sharing that with me today.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it was a great pleasure talking to you, Neil. And looking forward to hear back from our listeners and get more insights. Thank you.
So many big talking points there, wasn't there? From how cross-organizational collaboration can increase innovation in AI and the cloud, and also the skills needed for that workforce of the future, and how we can bring everyone along for the ride. Not to mention COVID-19's role in driving a boom in demand for AI and cloud, and also for daring to discuss, does AI and cloud adoption require organisational restructuring? But I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that we discussed today. So as always, my email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You get me on Twitter @NeilCHughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. So a big thank you to KK and for everyone at HCL Technologies who've been incredibly supportive of the podcast over the years. It's great to see them achieving that fantastic success of $10 billion in revenue. But I will return tomorrow with another guest, and we'll explore another area of how technology is transforming our life, business, or indeed world. So I hope you'll join me again then. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.